What is up, everyone? Hope you guys are having an amazing, beautiful day. As always, welcome to the second episode of the Crucible Experience podcast. And this guest that needs no introduction, it is the one and only Pattycakes. And man, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. We're super excited about this. We got some really cool questions. Let's have a great time.
Awesome. I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. So I know that you are kind of short on time, Patty. So let's jump right into it, okay? So
Sounds
the
good.
first thing I want to go over with you, and we just also got the new TWAB with the whole changes and stuff.
Big changes, huh?
Yeah,
that was a bombshell.
It is. It's very interesting, especially coming from a perspective of a PC player and me myself, a console player. It's going to be an interesting talk. But first, what I want to go over is a topic that I hear a lot in the community is skill-based matchmaking, and I want to talk about like a few things in particular. Do you think that skill-based matchmaking should be all over the playlists? Do you think we should have some playlists that have like connection-based? What is your take on all of this?
Okay, in a perfect world for me, I would like to see connection-based everywhere, with skill-based only protecting like certain outsiders. Like for example, maybe people who are the bottom like 20% or something, for people who are brand new to the game, right? Like they're the level 2 blueberries who have all white weapons. They're like, okay, that's maybe they shouldn't be up against Frostbolt. But like,
that's true.
You know, but because like if it's too crazy, they might just never come back. So I think it's like you maybe introduce them slowly, but for the rest of the population, I think it should all, especially since Destiny has kind of a low population overall right now.
Yes,
I think that it's best if it's all in one big batch. And the thing is, like, a lot of people complain like, oh, I'm gonna match like a top 1% player every game. Well, statistically, that's probably not gonna happen if they're the top 1%, right?
Yeah,
you can make that argument. But also, I just feel like, at least for my lobbies, like I don't really care if I win or lose or do well or poorly. What I care most about is the experience of doing it. So like if I'm in a lobby that's like super laggy, which is very common, like it just gets so irritating when you're hitting your shots or you feel like you are, but it's not registering because like they have 300 ping or something, and it's just it's unfortunately too common, in the times where Bungie's like turned that dial to be like pure connection based, like quote unquote, and who knows how it is right now. Put on your spin foil hat, figure out what the current algorithm is. But anyway, it's noticeable when they like make it skill based, or sorry, connection based. It feels so much better, and so
much better.
I don't know. I'm all for that. I also, I came from playing other games like Counter-Strike and Halo back in the day, where like in Counter-Strike you just get thrown into a server with anybody. It's like you might play people who have played for 5 hours, or you might play professional players back then. And I feel like that made me a much better player, because like you'd start out really bad and then you get a little bit better, and then it's like you're constantly playing people who are at the upper ends of the skill spectrum, but not always, just sometimes. And in Destiny, like if you only ever play people who are like at the, let's say you're like a bottom 20% player and you only ever get to play bottom, you're never going to improve very much, because like,
I see your point.
You're not going to get challenged. So I personally am on team connection-based matchmaking.
Yeah, well, I am too. The thing is with skill-based matchmaking, as you said, first of all, the lag is an issue. Like it's happening. You see teleporting titans like all over. They're like going insane. Every one of them has back risk pretty much, right? For me at least, they're teleporting a lot. It gets pretty crazy, as you said. And then it's not just that. I feel like sometimes you just have to have a playlist where you just want to chill. You just want to jump in, grab a weird setup, and just chill. Yeah. You don't want to do anything, just enjoy the game. And for the players that are, let's say, above average, all of the games are just sweaty all day long. And you get stressed out kind of, But I also understand the other side, because people are saying, well, I'm not that good, so I want to go against people that are like me. But then somebody, as you mentioned, for example, Frostball jumps in, absolutely annihilates everyone. And it's, of course, not Frostball's fault, but it is the matchmaking that does it to those kind of people. So there's two sides to the story, but I feel like, in my humble opinion, I feel like there should be different modes with different connections. Or let's say you have the same modes with different connections. We have control with skill-based and connection. I feel like the only problem with that, and I think Bungie will not do that because they're afraid of splitting the community, right? So there might be more queue times because some go to that, some go to that.
Yeah,
the
I
same
think that's
mode.
a big problem is
Yeah.
that unfortunately the population's pretty low right now.
Exactly.
Just the game's not been in the greatest place for player retention, and so I think that anything that splits it further is because of that is unfortunately not the greatest. But in an ideal world, I think that would be cool to have more options. And I remember like back in old Halos, you could like even choose like do you prefer connection or do you prefer skill matching or whatever. There's different ways. So I think that'd be cool. But
That's a great option.
again, unfortunately, with like a small player base, the more you split the queue, it's just
It's gonna.
a lot of people are out there asking for like new types of playlists, which I also am for, like a true capture the flag mode and like different objective modes. I would be super into that. But the thing is, like every time you divide the player base a little bit more, each of those playlists has a harder time finding games, and so it's a fine line.
It
to
is.
draw there.
It is, and it is pretty hard to find the perfect spot for Bungie, I imagine. But I still feel like there has to be some kind of connection. But I think last season was connection based. I definitely feel like this season is skill based because there's too many.
It feels sweatier to me for sure.
Me too.
I can't really. To be honest, I haven't played as much this season because I'm just kind of like. I play enough to like get my Destiny kick for the week, but
yeah.
It's just sometimes
it's
with
hard.
Stasis and everything. It's just you need to step away from it. So I don't feel like I have as good of a sample size as like last season, but overall it does feel a little sweatier to me. And the thing, even if it's still connection based, the lobby balancing is very intense right now. So like I don't consider myself like the best player ever, but like I'm probably in the upper like half or whatever. And so if I go into a lobby, it's pretty common that I will be paired with a bunch of people who are very new to the game, and then we'll play a bunch of like I don't know, like medium skilled players. And it's I at the beginning of the season I lost like every game. Like it was I literally I think I had like a 15 or 20% win ratio at the beginning of the season because like just every game I would get mercied because they'll if you're playing six relatively talented players and like you have a bunch of people who have never tried the game before, it's going to be pretty tough.
Not much you can do.
So that seems like that's dialed up to 11 right now. So I don't know, it'll be nice to find some middle ground between all those systems.
Most definitely. I agree with that 100%. Is there anything you would like to add to all the matchmaking stuff, or should we move on to the next question?
The only thing I'll say is I am excited for when they implement crossplay at some point. I guess later this year is what they're targeting, because I think that will alleviate a lot of these issues when you just like okay, if you're gonna do a connection based system, the more people you have to match with, the better it gets, right? It's like a connection based system when there's 15 players playing, it's not it doesn't matter if each player's in their own country, it's not going to work very well. Whereas if you have like 10 times the current player base, because like maybe there's a new expansion comes out and also there's all three different platforms playing against each other, like I think that makes it a lot better. So,
I agree.
To me, that's more players equals better for that kind of a system.
I feel like crossplay is gonna fix that issue of the lower population, right? 100%. The thing
definitely
is,
help.
How is it gonna work? I hope it's gonna work like if you queue up with console players only, you're gonna go against console players only. Like in other games, pretty much that's how it works. So I think that's gonna be the case. The second question, and this is a very interesting topic to me. There was this very interesting comment when I uploaded the podcast with Castle is Live. His name was Brad, and he commented, "What about mobility creep in PvP? Because it's real."
That's an interesting question.
It is, right? The second I read it, I was like, oh, okay, this makes complete sense because not many people talk about it. But if you think about it, in combination with
over time,
maps,
absolutely.
Do you think that is a factor right now?
Well, I think that the biggest example of this is when you take the Destiny 1 maps and put them in D2, they feel smaller, right? Like they don't feel the same. And I think a lot of that is due to how fast we move right now. Like there's top tier Dawnblades who get around the map at Mach 10 speed, and then now that we have Stasis Titans who can slide around and then use their melee, and their super is crazy, and then Hunters now have like vertical mobility where you can shatter dive, out of air. So I think overall the movement is like it feels a lot faster than D1. In fact, like when I go back and watch my old D1 clips, it's so funny. It's like the game looks so slow,
much slower.
It's so different. I mean, it looks like you have all day to aim at people, and now on PC, it's like it's so fast. It's like, especially with how talented a lot of the players are these days, it's just the game feels like 10 times faster.
Even on console, it's pretty
Mhm.
fast, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's becoming an issue. Well, the thing is, like as you mentioned, the maps haven't gotten bigger. Well, to be fair, they took out some of the bigger maps. Most of the
You're
maps
right,
are
yeah.
like medium to small, and there's just too much cover in between players. And now when you
Mhm.
add in the factor that the movement, especially with Stasis, for example, if you take the Titan, you know, the slides are absolutely crazy. Then you combine that with the
is.
melee, they're like flying around the map. And as you said, top tree Dawnblade,
Yeah.
we haven't gotten a new map for a very long time. That hasn't
Mhm.
changed. Well, we did get what, Fragment, that was it, I think.
I
But
guess that was the most recent one.
yeah, but that's not a big map anyway, right? It's pretty much the
Yeah.
same sized medium map.
I guess I'm not that worried about mobility creep, to be honest, because I personally am always for increased skill gap in the game. Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like movement's one of those levers you can pull where the more movement you introduce, the better this or the higher the skill ceiling becomes, right? Because
Yes.
like, and you watch this, like really good players, like my friend Cool Cheese, he's like insane on Stasis Titan. Like
Yeah.
I can't keep track of him. He's all over the
Yeah,
place.
it's very hard.
And good players can abuse that movement really well. So I like, again, this is me. Like I always like increasing the skill gap so that there's room for good
Mhm.
players like to show, skill levels over like newer players. But again, I'm also on like team like reduce aim assist because I want to see, I want to see like that gap, and it probably comes more from my background again. Like I played Counter-Strike for a long time. I love watching the pro levels of CS, like the aim difference even between like the best players to like the not even like the good pros who are just not the best pros. Like it's a big difference. So I love like that, watching a skill gap like that evolve. So personally, I love to see anything that increases the gap is
Yeah,
I'm generally in favor of.
I feel like there's no, I also don't have a problem with the mobility itself. I feel like in combination with the maps and having so much cover around the maps, that's when it becomes kind of hard to control.
I do think that the maps could like generally be, especially the older maps that are like getting brought back, I feel like are a little small feeling.
Yeah.
So
that's how I feel about it too. Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
I don't think so. I think we're kind of on the same page with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I will say one thing is that it's just too bad that they can't seem to create new maps that are like good. Like I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but,
that's the issue for me. That's all.
Man, it's like it's just unfortunate. Like the best map, like is in my opinion, the best maps are like Javelin, Endless Vale, Dead Cliffs. Those are probably the three best maps I think from D2, and then there's a couple from D1 that are pretty good. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot that I really like that much, and those are all maps from like I don't know, like the beta, the very at least vanilla D2, and it's like, come on, man, game's been out for years now. We can't like have one more good PvP map like that. Like I don't know who developed those maps or what, but it's like I would love to see some really clean, nice flowing good maps, and that's I think what has like that's like the commonality between those is they all like have pretty good flow around them, and like they're not super cluttered, but they have like cool lanes to fight in. I think that makes a big difference in maps.
Yeah, it does, and I feel like they took some of the maps were actually kind of close to what you were saying. They were like clean, a bit bigger. Like what was the name? Equinox, I think. That map is gone.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and those kind of maps that were like cleaner and kind of you had better lanes. You had some really cool gunfights there. Those are gone. So I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. Let's just hope that they bring some new maps that are a lot of fun. And
I really do hope that they can bring. It doesn't have to be crazy, but just like one really good map every season would be like awesome. That would help the game so much.
Yeah, definitely. And this one is coming from Champ from our Discord, and he's asking, do you think that we are moving into a ability based meta? So do you feel like
the meta feels that way?
Yeah, so do you think that's going to be an issue going forward?
I think that before Stasis even came out, it was a little ability heavy already in some ways. For example, really good players would complain about Top Tree Dawnblade, specifically the Celestial Fire melee was really strong. Like arguably the best melee in the game. It was really strong. Yeah. And that now is like not even really talked about because we have all these Stasis abilities that are just power crept right above those. That it's like you know, have the Shatter Dive Hunter, which got nerfed but still is kind of a problem. You've got
Yeah.
you know, the Dustfield grenades that can suck you across the map from
Yep.
way too far. You've got you know, that's the Stasis Titan now is like practically unkillable if it's a good player who knows how to move well with it.
They're crazy, man.
If you play triple Titans in trials, and they're all Stasis Titan, it's like almost like they get 3 free rounds with each of their supers. Like it's really, really hard to shut them down. You have to, I mean, you can do it, but it's like it takes a really coordinated effort to take them down. And you know, it's just unfortunate. I feel like there's more and more things that are like going more ability centric and less gunplay centric, and I'm not a huge fan of that direction. I like the gunplay of Destiny. I think that the abilities and the movement, everything's cool, but like the gunplay feels really nice, and I wish it was like incentivized a little bit more. But I don't know, it's tough. It's I feel like they also want to add new things to the game that make it interesting, and you know, like all the new abilities are neat, but it's like I feel like they need to be like not quite as powerful as they are when they introduce them, or at least be willing to take them down faster. Like it seemed like at first they were kind of like nerfing things quickly, and then it just like and we had the holiday season, so it's not completely a fair you know comparison, but it feels like they're taking a while now to like make adjustments, even little things like they adjusted the Shatter Dive combo with Hunter, but then they mentioned like we're gonna wait and see how this plays out with the Stasis Titan. I'm like, well, if anything, that's gonna make the Stasis Titan more strong because there's like one less thing that we can do to shut it down. So it's like, I feel like that should like, you know, that should also be changed at the same time. And if they overdo it like they did with the Warlock melee, okay, well you can roll that back if you feel like it was too strong. But I don't know, I would like to see more frequent balance changes that, you know, kind of tone things down, take them down until they're like not good at all, and then like bring it back up until they're like, you know, reasonable. But
they always take their time, right, on balancing things, which sometimes can be very hard to understand, because those things in the Crucible, as you said, like if you take Shadow Dive, I mean, they nerfed it, but was it really that big of a nerf? I don't feel like, I mean, it did something, but it didn't do what it should have done, in my humble opinion.
That's
but
one of that's one of the things I think that Bungie could improve upon, is they tend to be very data driven with their analysis of how to balance things, and I understand that, and that's like I feel like that's one good way to look at it. But you can also like look at the actual experience of, you know, players who play a lot of hours in the Crucible, and they can explain, like, I mean, if you talk to any top PvP player, they can explain very quickly like what things feel oppressively broken, and there's like, you know, it's not like 100 things, it's like probably 3 to 5 things that feel like, okay, these are like way out of whack. Maybe we could like, you know, look at the data but also consider like the experience that, you know, the players are talking about. So
one of the biggest problems is they're not adjusting things fast enough. I know that they're seeing the feedback, they're listening, as they love to say, but I just don't I just don't see the changes happening fast enough for us to enjoy those changes. We get stuck with stuff.
Look back at One-Eyed Mask, Mountaintop.
Oh my,
like,
don't even.
I mean, those,
oh my
you know, it's
God.
like how long were those things?
That was
just
bad.
Oppressively broken, and it's like, I just don't want to be in that situation with Stasis for a whole year. Like that's my I want. Stasis was fun at first. I had a lot of fun with it the first like few weeks. That was really cool. I even, you know, I made a montage of like dunking on people. It's fun. It's fun. I enjoyed it. But it's like, okay, we're going into February now. Like, can we get these things back more in line with the light based stuff? So, I mean, it feels like if you use a light based subclass right now, you're sort of gimping yourself. You know, it's like you can still do well, but it's like I don't know. I would like to see them.
I mean, you could do well, but then you have classes, right? For example, let's take the Warlock, or any of them. I'm not saying the Warlock is stronger than others at this point, but having just double melees, and when people just master those melees and they can freeze you like that, it's extremely powerful.
Absolutely.
Very, very strong. It literally takes you out of the game, and that's when it only freezes you for like up to 2 seconds, and then with the grenades you have a 4 to 5 second freeze. It definitely needs to be toned down, which brings us to the next question, right? Do you think that the Stasis was broken the way it was by accident, or do you actually think it was on purpose?
This is like conspiracy theory area, of course, but like, I mean, realistic. Okay, so I have like a business background before I got into gaming and content creation and stuff. realistically, I think it's not a huge stretch to think that, okay, well, if we make this thing really strong, like, more players are going to want
Yeah.
to, when all the new light players go in there, they're getting wrecked by Stasis left and right. It's
Yep.
they're like, okay, well, I want that thing because I can't seem to compete with getting Drewski dunked left
Yep.
and right. And so, to me, like, it's not that much of a stretch to think that it came in a little hot with the, probably plan to tone it down. I hate to like think that, but I mean, it's not, I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that's a possibility. And I don't honestly, like, I don't love that they do that, but I'm a realist. I understand like that there is a business behind this and they need to sell copies of it, so whatever. But like, at least nerf it faster. Like, like, it's just, I don't know. I think that it would be better if in an ideal world it'd be balanced out of the gate, don't get me wrong, but like, I understand that like they probably want to sell their new DLC. But at least, I mean, it'd be cool if they would change it faster so it wasn't like so broken for so long.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely not a mistake that it didn't just come out like half baked. No, that was not the case. They worked on it. They knew what they're doing, and they just put it out. And I feel like it also was they were testing things out. I feel like going forward in the future seasons, future year, whatever it's going to be, I feel like all the subclasses are going to look like Stasis, including Light. This is just my opinion, of course, but I think they're going to start moving it. That's why you heard Luke talk about taking out some of the supers, if you remember, in one of those interviews. I feel like they're going that way. They probably already have been working on it for some time now, and I feel like the Light supers, they will also pick one or two and make it like the Stasis ones are, and then probably add some Darkness subclasses, hopefully, in the future. And as you mentioned, at the end of the day, it's all business, and when it's going to be coming out and dropping fresh, I feel like those subclasses are going to be always stronger. We already had this, right, with Forsaken too. Forsaken supers were crazy. Like, they were
even back in D1, remember?
Yeah.
Like there was the Solar Titan, who was the only class that couldn't be one-shot headshot with a regular sniper rifle. You needed like the Black Hammer or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not a new thing, and it's not even exclusive to Destiny. It's in every other MMO type of game. It's just the business model, and I don't love it, but it's like, it is what it is. But they're gonna do that. I just wish that they would be corrected more quickly. It's like, okay, let it be broken and fun for a month, and then like, let's dial it back in so it's reasonable with the rest of the sandbox.
Yeah, that's the difference between Destiny and other games, though. Like, from the MMOs that I've played, and I'm talking like the actual like big MMOs, they tone down things way faster.
That's
in many of
that's
them.
That's what I would like to see. It's like, I understand that, like, and honestly, the new thing, I think it's okay that the new thing is pretty strong at first, because like, that's just, it's fun to like, it was really fun to use Stasis for a month. Like, I had a lot of fun, but now I'm like, okay, we're like going into February. I'd like to be back to some of my other favorite subclasses, but I feel every time I switch, I'm like, man, well, this is cool, but I'm getting frozen left and right, and I'm not doing the freezing. I'm getting frozen. So
yeah, it can be very hard. So the community was asking for this. They were very interested in this question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you this one. What is, in your opinion, the biggest difference between an average and a top tier player? Just aim, movement, communication.
This is such a good question. In fact, I would recommend, I actually have a video. I don't know if you know Sides. He's a friend of mine. He's a very, very good player. And we actually talked about this for like an hour in an hour-long discussion. I think that it's like a combination of all of those things. And I would break it down into more of like what I would call like a generally speaking game sense. So like, okay, if your movement is insane, but you don't know when to do the right movements, or your aim's really good, but you're not looking in the right place, then those skills aren't very useful to you. However, you can get away with having not the best movement, not the best aim, if you know what to anticipate, right? So like, you kind of have a feel of like what's going on in the match, and you can watch for example, you work on your crosshair placement so that you might not have the best reactivity where you like click right to the person's head, but it's like, if your crosshair's already roughly in the right spot, you only have to make a very small adjustment when someone comes around a corner. Whereas like, if you don't have that game sense and you're not really sure like what to be doing at any given time, it can be a lot tougher for you. So that's kind of where I sit with that. I feel like all of those things you mentioned are components of becoming a good player, but like, you need that like intangible game sense to put it together, and not a single one of those components by themselves will make you a great player. You need all of it.
Yeah, I agree. The way I look at it, the biggest problem that most of the people have, right, is probably movement. What I see a lot is a lot of people ADS for too long, for example. They stay in one spot. You just see them like just standing there ADSing.
Yeah.
And they get, flanked and taken out. They're not jumping up and down. They're not using that kind of movement, like the vertical movement.
A movement's one of the easiest ways to identify the skill level. Like I can watch a player and have like a pretty decent idea of how good they're going to be. There's exceptions. There's people who come from other games. Maybe they are like a pro, like a pro level like aimer in some other game, and they come over. Okay, well, or maybe have an aimbot. But that's a problem we have to deal with on PC. But like generally speaking, you can identify someone's skill level in the game pretty quickly by watching how they move. I think that's it's a really good indicator.
Yeah, 100%. Like you can tell when they're just slowly just taking their time and moving from one spot to another. It's pretty obvious, they're not there yet. But
yeah, and I would say more broadly, just being out in the middle of nowhere without a plan. It's like a lot of times you'll just catch people are just like, okay, you're not near it, not anywhere close to cover. Like,
what are
I'm
you
gonna
doing
go out
here?
here and like. Even if I miss 3 shots, I might have time to take 4, 5, 6, 7 shots. My friend Apathetic, he's one of the hardest people to 1v1 because he won't leave cover until he has the advantage on you. Like it's so frustrating to play against him because like he minimizes those mistakes where like he will strafe in and out of cover and like peek shot you until he has the upper hand in the fight, and then he'll push you because then he's likely to win. But that's the type of thing that good players do. They're not gonna be out in the middle of nowhere giving you free damage. They're gonna be playing it safe until they have an advantage, and then they'll push you.
Oh, we have a friend like that. His name is Onion Knight. He uses the shield with the Titan, right?
Yeah.
So oh my god, dude. People are like losing it when we're doing private matches. He pops it and he uses it so well. There's just not much you can do because he can pop it every 14 seconds and then just sitting around it in the right positions, using fusion, snipers, whatever it is. Yeah, it can be utilized very, very well.
What it is it's a combination of playing the game a lot, so you get a lot of experience, playing at different levels, so you play like you're not going to develop like top tier game sense against really bad players because they're not going to challenge you in the same way that like playing really good players will.
Yeah.
But it's also things like watching YouTubers, watch streamers, like try to pick up like the habits of good players and incorporate that into your own game, and don't just watch passively, but like think about like why do they do the things that they do. And if you just are like an active watcher, I think you can incorporate that and shave a lot of that learning curve off where it's like I do that in other games. Like I watched, for example, I am playing a lot of Apex Legends right now, so like whenever I watch like really good players, I'm like rapidly picking up on little tricks that they do, and in thousands of hours of gameplay I might like never have figured out some little thing that they just did, but I watch it one time and that's in my tool bag of tricks now. So
what do you think happens with light supers going into the future?
There's the Luke Smith article side of it, right, where they might, it wouldn't blow my mind if they consolidate them to like fit them into that new Stasis style system. I don't want to see them buffed necessarily. I think this is coming from someone who appreciates the gunplay and movement of Destiny the most, and I dislike when it's super ability centric meta. So I don't really want to see anything get better necessarily. I would rather see things get brought down to be like more even, and that includes things like timers and stuff. I think that we maybe get our supers a little too fast. I think that the changes to remove stuff like remote connection and all that pump action stuff like that, I thought that was a great move, because like people, especially in stuff like trials who are good snipers, could sit there and get their super so fast by just getting a bunch of sniper kills. And so I think that was a big move in the right direction, but I would even like to see it take a little longer to get supers still, because what happens is you get these modes like trials where people just sit around and they'll just cheese their super. It's so annoying. So I want anything you can do to remove the ability for stuff like that. I'm in for.
How many supers a game, like for example in trials, do you think would be a good place? Because right now it's what you can get like 2-3 supers.
Well, I was gonna say if you're so these days I would say on average you probably get 1 to 2, and then if you're using a cutoff super like Middle Tree Arc Strider or Chaos Reach, then you can definitely get more because you're potentially saving a lot of. And then there's stuff like geomags where
I've gotten up to
get,
4 or 5 supers with that middle tree arc.
Yeah, that's like that's a whole nother can of worms, because you can basically get to 3/4 of a super, then run into a wall, get your super, use it, cut it off, have half of it left or more, and then then you only need another third of it or half, quarter of it to
geomags. Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty ridiculous, but that's like an edge case. I feel like in general, I think that people probably get like on average 1 to 2 if the match goes long enough and you have high enough intellect and get kills and whatnot. So, which is, I don't think that's like totally ridiculous. I think that's okay. But even maybe it should be like more rare to get a second one. Like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
like as you mentioned, right? Gunplay. I feel like when you're playing a competitive mode, like, let's be honest, the super is something most of the player base can use, right? You don't really need to be crazy good with it, especially with some supers. Like if you take the Hunter super right now with the Stasis, you just need to aim in a direction, shoot it, they're done. That's it. So when it comes to an ability like that in a mode like Trials or competitive, I feel like just being able to spam it, it's just too much. It takes away from the gunplay. I myself, like you, I enjoy gunplay more, man. Like I want to see if I'm better than that guy with the guns, the weapons, whatever I'm using. Not just press a button and annihilate the whole other team. I mean, that can be fun. I want to get those kills, but I feel like gunplay is more interesting to me, and as I understand, to you too. So
yeah,
absolutely. How it goes. Yeah, I hope, as you said, those changes were really good because it kind of toned down the super energy.
It definitely made a big difference.
It did.
I noticed it tremendously. Even for myself, I get way less supers now than I used to, like per minute, it seems like. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this one is from Ben from the Discord, and this one is kind of a fun one. Which exotic weapon would you bring back from D1 instantly if you could? You gotta name 3.
Name 3 of them?
Name 3.
I would say first one definitely is No Land Beyond. I
love my man.
That. I love that card. That was so fun.
Yes.
That'd be number 1 for sure. I still kind of like I miss Red Death. Like I feel like Crimson is like a version of it, but I know it's more powerful on controller. For mouse and keyboard, Crimson's like doesn't feel that great. So I always liked Red Death a lot. I would be down to see that again. I think if there's any, the other one that would come to mind is something like the Vex Mythic class, which hopefully will come back soon with Vault of Glass. But I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that like come to mind. The one I'm most scared of is like the Talaluk. Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
the Scout Rifle.
I
think that with things like Devour Warlock, that thing could be so busted because a lot of like Nova Bomb's not that good anyway, right? So people are okay to sit on their Nova Bomb, and then have like a super cheesed up primary, and then get that Devour going. Like I think really good players could make like
that Scout was a beast.
That thing.
That Scout was a good
beast. It was a good Scout anyway, and then when you got it supercharged or whatever, it was insane. So I think that one could be really strong. It would be fun, but it might be a little busted with the Devour and everything that they have access to now on Warlock. So
yeah, for sure. I would say the same. I love the No Land Beyond, one of the most fun guns ever. Mythoclast for sure, because it's also just looks so unique and brings back so many memories. I would love to see. It's pretty much coming back though, right? And then
I would guess so. Yeah.
Do you remember Trespasser? I think that was the name. The sidearm.
The sidearm, yeah, I do remember. I wasn't like a huge sidearm guy in D1, but I roughly remember that. Yeah, it's not one that I used a whole lot.
I would love to see that one too. I thought it was a lot of fun. The design was great. So overall, yeah, that would be the 3 weapons.
Yeah.
That
one I forgot to mention, the first curse, the hand cannon. I always really liked that one. That was fun. That'd be a cool.
I was never good with that. Like I had last.
It's a tough one to do well with. I liked it a lot, but I didn't feel like I think if I was trying to play competitively, I'd probably go with other options, but that was a fun one. That one right now, I think that was a 120 equivalent, wasn't it? From what I remember, I'm pretty sure it's like a heavier hitting one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So that would be pretty good right now, right? The 120 meta, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think it was the only 120 pretty much back then. There was no other weapon like that, I think, right?
I'm trying to remember when
it came out.
It's been so long. My memory's fuzzy, but
Palindrome. Was it Palindrome?
No, so the palindromes were like the that was the same as like the IS Luna, like the one. Those are like the
Yes,
equivalent to the
okay.
140s now.
So
I
yeah,
feel like no, there were some heavier hitting one because like what Timur's Lash, the Iron Banner one. I remember that one was like
the one that looked
that-
like Duke, was it?
it looked like a Duke. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Duke but with Iron Banner colors.
Mhm.
That was one like the 120 equivalent. They were called different things in D1, but that
I
was
see.
the heavy hitting, slow firing one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, that would be fun. I think right now, especially, that'd be really good in this
Yeah.
meta. So that could be kind of cool.
The last info we just got from the TWAB, and we're not obviously going to go over all of it. That would take probably like 5 days, but we are going to talk about one particular change that is coming, and this is going to be interesting because you play on PC, I play on console, and I want to hear your thoughts how it's going to affect when crossplay kicks in, because this is why this change is happening in the first place, is the added recoil to PC players. So they're added mouse and keyboard. Yeah, if you're playing hand cannons, pulse rifles, there was a whole list.
Yeah, it's basically every type of primary. I think there's like 6 or so options in there. It was essentially everything.
And I had the question I have is, I understand that they're doing it because you guys are gonna be going against console players, but if the matchmaking happens the way we discussed, and for example, you only have PC players in your fire team, you're probably going to be going against only PC players, right? That's how it works in other games.
I guess it's to be determined how they do the matching. Some games do just, it's like, I guess it's default opted in where you just play everyone and then you can like opt out, where other games are like Fortnite, I think it's been a long time since I played that, but back when I used to, it was like if you were on PC, you'd only play other PC players.
Yeah.
If you were on Xbox, you'd only play Xbox. But if I was playing on PC and you were on Xbox, then we queued together, then we'd play both PC and Xbox. So I don't know how they'll do it in Destiny. I think that's the safest way to do it, but like, yeah, I'm afraid that that won't result in a high enough population doing it that way. So maybe it'd be better to like do it how Warzone and stuff have done it, where it's more of like an automatic opt-in, and then I guess you can opt out. I'm not really sure, but it'll be interesting to see what they choose. I mean, so, it's kind of on them to choose. But like,
let's say you opt out, right? Let's say you opt out. Then what happens is you guys are just playing on PC, but you just have more recoil on everything, right? So
which I guess will be across the board like now anyway. Like everything will have higher recoil for mouse and keyboard. I mean, okay, without actually trying it, I feel like I can't know how it will feel. It's like you see numbers, and sometimes that it's not indicative of how things will feel. I don't like. It's not going to drive me away from the game. Just like I'll deal with it. But what I would have rather have seen is for them to reduce recoil for controller, because I know that's something that people have been complaining about literally since like the first day of Destiny 2. Yeah. Like, why are SMGs like going to the moon when you
that crazy
hold, like and I've tried I mostly play mouse and keyboard, but like I do occasionally plug in a controller and just to see it, and it's like it has a lot of recoil. So I would have rather them see that, but then in conjunction with that, I'd rather them also reduce aim assist across the board, because I just think it's way too high right now, especially like with certain perks like Eye of the Storm and stuff like that, where once you get that kicking in, like I've seen so many examples with Hawkmoon now, where like someone's like aiming at their belly button and it hits a headshot. It's just like, come on, like it's just and I've been playing a lot of like Apex, like I mentioned earlier lately, where it's like that game has much tighter hitboxes, so like, if you want a headshot, you need to actually hit their headbox. I played a lot of games like CS back in the day where that was the case too, and so I feel like it cheapens the integrity of the game when like you get free headshots by just aiming in their general direction. Like it's not as satisfying to play, because it's like, okay, well, I didn't actually hit that guy, it just gave me 3, and then it also artificially inflate like I guess deflates the time to kill, where everyone gets like the automatic best time to kill, because it's like you can't miss because it's like there's so much aim assist. And so I feel like I would love to play a version of Destiny that had aim assist turned way down and just see like what it felt like, because I think you'd have more breathing room in your engagements, like you wouldn't be getting shot so much, but at the same time it'd be harder for you to land shots, and it would increase the skill gap a lot. So I would love to see that change, but I don't know how realistic that is.
That was a very good example when you talked about Apex, because you can actually feel it. If you play Destiny for, let's say, a few months, and we used to play Apex a lot back in the day, and then went to back to Destiny, and after playing Destiny for 1 or 2 months or 3 months and going back to Apex, No, the shots were so much harder to land. You can feel it. So much harder.
I noticed on mouse and keyboard on Apex right now, like I'm like thinking I'm beaming someone and I miss like every bullet. I'm like, what the heck? That would have been an easy kill in Destiny. But yeah, but on the, you know, I like that because it encourages me to like get better at aiming, you know.
Yes.
It's like it feels better to like when you do land those bullets, like, oh my gosh, I actually like did really well on that guy, instead of like
feels
feeling
rewarding.
like I didn't feel like I really did that well, but I got a free kill. So
yeah, because many weapons Arbalist, for example, especially on console, dude, I'm telling you, every time I see that weapon, I'm like, it freaks me out.
I've seen clips of it on controller, and even on mouse and keyboard, it's pretty forgiving. Like I use it sometimes. Like just the other day, I was just trying it out because like, people were talking about it so much, and it's like I hate that. Like I think that you should have to hit your target, but it just makes for, I don't know.
Yeah, on console it's just devastating. Like it's so, if people get good with that gun. I don't want to take more time. I know you gotta go.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey,
if anyone wants to like talk about this stuff, I have a community Discord that's really great for like, we have Destiny chats. I'm also pretty active on Twitter, so those are good places to engage with me for that kind of stuff. I can't, you know, reply to every single thing, but I try for the most part to do as much as I can. So that's good places to,
as mentioned,
extend the conversation.
My community absolutely loves your content, dude. They appreciate it a lot. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be showing a lot of love to the channel. And in general, you do a great job. The content is very high quality, and I want to thank you for that. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great stuff, very interesting stuff. A lot of people have been telling me through the community that the way you make the videos, talk about stuff, it makes it very simple for them to understand, which especially for new players coming in, right? That's what they need.
I love hearing that. That's what I try to do. Like, because I know that, like, you know, I'm ultimately making videos that are like kind of for a wide range of skill levels. I know that not every player, in fact, like most of the really good players probably don't care about my videos because like they already know most of that stuff anyway. So it's like I really make
learn
the
a
videos
lot from them, dude. You can.
Well, I appreciate that, but yeah, I really aim to like try to make this stuff like accessible at a variety of skill levels, and hopefully, like if you're a brand new player, you pick up something that's going to help you, and if you're a more advanced player, you'll pick up something.
So. You definitely will. Like the video you uploaded about sniping.
Oh yeah, with my friend Shadow.
With Shadow, right? Yeah. Like I'm a pretty experienced player, but some of the points you guys were making, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could definitely use that. And actually, when we were playing yesterday, I was thinking about those things, like for example the placement, because I used to play Counter-Strike 2. We had a team and we'd go to tournaments and stuff like that for years.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So I'm also used to putting the crosshair right at the, you know, when they're gonna peek out, so you can take them out right away. And then when you mentioned, you know, kind of putting it away from the corner, I was like, okay, in Destiny 2, that probably makes way more sense, and I've been utilizing that. So there you go. Even experienced players.
Yeah, that's actually that's a big one.
Yeah.
In fact, I used to do the same thing in CS. I would put my crosshair right at the edge, and then like I would try to flick over. But then it's like, I actually saw this video on YouTube years ago that like explained like what one of the best CS pros, like how he did it, and like it made so much sense to me. It's like, oh, okay, give yourself a little time to react, and then you'll hit a higher percentage of your shots. So that's something I try to adopt as well.
We went over some very interesting questions. Once again, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure, and I hope to see you on the podcast once again.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a part 2 sometime.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.